Okay, perfect. So solar power for the real estate investor. So as Rebecca said, I'm the owner of Gridline Power, and our focus is residential solar and light commercial, as well as energy efficiency projects. And I'm also an employee at Canadian Power Pack, which is one of the largest electrical contractors in the city. And they're focused more on institutional solar and utility scale solar. And so I was hired on to build that division for them. So a little bit about me. I'm a master electrician, solar technician, instrument technician, real estate investor, and I produce cute babies. And a funny story about that, actually. The last time that my wife and I attended a Mogul Mastermind, she was pregnant, and we were talking to Adrian outside. And I had established that I actually know Adrian's sister. We just parted ways, and my wife said, "I think your water broke." It did. And,
literally right after we talked.
Literally, yes. Literally right after we spoke. So tonight is going to be a lot less crazy than that. So what are we going to talk about? So basic terms, because there's a lot of misconceptions or people don't know, how to relate to things, how to refer to things. We're going to talk about the components that go into your site, assessing your site, what everyone wants to know, the costs. Lots of grants available, so people are really interested in that. The economics, because everyone here is probably a numbers person. They want to know how long will it take for my system to pay itself off. Other benefits, financing, maximizing your investment, and then a quick little blurb on operating and maintenance. And if I have any left over time, maybe a few questions. So first things first, there's at least 4 people right now that are thinking, what about the batteries? So do you need batteries? No, you do not. You don't need batteries, you don't want batteries, we're not even going to talk about it. So grid connected, that's what we're talking about today. That's a system that is essentially connected to your electricity meter. The other one being an off-grid system, cabin in the woods, cabin on a lake, that kind of thing. But for our intents and purposes, we're just talking about grid connected systems. Inverter, that's what actually converts the power of your solar panel to the power that your fridge, microwave, stove can use. Kilowatt. That is kind of what your solar panel systems are measured in. So you have a 1 kilowatt system, you have a 1,000 kilowatt system. And when we talk about them, that's what they're measured in. And then a kilowatt hour, as most of you probably know, is what the energy company charges you for your power, and also how your solar panels will register how much power they produced. Module or solar panel, they're the same thing. Technically, I should call it module, but I call it panel. Some people get really particular about it. If I say one or the other, I mean the same thing. Net metering, this is an important one. So net metering allows any system that produces more power than that particular building needs to actually send that electricity back onto the grid, and for you to get compensated for that electricity. So you won't lose any power. You're not gifting EPCOR any power. That's your power. And then photovoltaics or PV, when I talk about solar or PV, they're kind of the same. So your components, really just 3 components that are specific to solar. You have your panels, you have your inverters, which convert the DC power to AC power, and then you have racking, which comes in many, many different forms for any application that you can possibly dream up. And so basically the sunlight will hit your panels, go through the inverter, go through your main electrical panel or a sub panel, doesn't matter. And then it'll go It'll be distributed throughout your house to whatever you happen to be using power-wise at that time. And if there's nothing there, then it gets pushed back out onto the meter.
And there's a special meter for metering that amount.
There is. It's called a bidirectional meter. Epcor will just come and put one in to your house if you or your building or whatever you have. And it's no cost to anyone. And most new buildings actually have that capability already installed. And Epcor can actually access them electronically. And they're just flipping the parameters around so that you can see the electricity going both directions.
And you can log that like on a daily basis or continuously?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at your meter, it'll say there's a bunch of different screens that come out. It just revolves around. So if you have a couple minutes at your house and you want to go stand in front of your meter, you'll see something that says delivered, and that's how much electricity your house has got delivered. And you'll see something that says if you had a solar array received, and that's how much power that gets produced. So does Alberta have a good solar resource? What about the snow? These are questions I get asked a lot. So that is Western Canada's solar resource, brighter being better. So you can see that we get a ton of sunlight. Might not seem like it because some of those days are very, very cold, but we actually get a ton of sunlight, and Alberta and Saskatchewan are great places to invest in solar for that reason. And you have places like Germany, which as you can see, not very sunny. It's also half the size of Alberta, and yet they have 1,300% more solar panels installed than all of Canada. So it is possible, it is economical. You kind of just have to want that to become a reality, and we're seeing that more now in the industry, which is nice. Where can I put solar panels? You can put them on any roof, shingled, metal, clay tiles, doesn't matter. And if you don't have a roof, you can have a fixed system, a solar tracker, which will basically follow the sun. Or a lot of places like malls, universities are actually making their carports from solar panels. So the roof on them would be made of solar panels. So it keeps the heat off and generates electricity. So it's kind of a neat application. So is my building a good candidate? Does it have a roof? Does the roof face south, west, or east? Never north. Unless you have lots of money, you have some architectural thing in mind that you want to do, but if your building faces north, probably not a good investment. Is there any shading? Things like trees, other buildings, chimneys, that sort of thing. And have I replaced my roof within the last 5 or 10 years? And this is important because a solar panel system, solar array, is going to last you for 25 years plus. So if your roof needs to be replaced in 5 years, you're going to be pretty disappointed when I have to come back and you have to pay me, take the panels off, get it roofed, and then put the panels back on. And lastly, is my electrical service suitable? Which 9 times out of 10 they are. There's some ratings on your panel, and there's questions like, is there space in your breaker box to put new breakers in, that kind of thing. But like I said, 9 times out of 10, there isn't really much. And that is actually a solar pathfinder, and that's, you can kind of see the guys looking for shading. And so everything that is within that window would be shade, and so that's how you calculate whether you have a good site or not, or whether there's going to be shading, especially between the hours of sort of 10 and 2. That's your sweet spot. So once you decided that, yes, I have a good site, next line of question, how big of a system do I need? The answer is, it depends. So the average household in Alberta uses 6,900 kilowatt hours, and a 1 kilowatt array will produce 1,200 kilowatt hours. So by that math, the average house needs about a 5.75 kilowatt system. That's one way of looking at it. The other way to look at it, and what I would typically do, is I would ask you for a power bill. I would track your yearly consumption, see what you've done, ask you if you were going to buy a Tesla, and then or air conditioning or hot tub, and then size your array backwards if you wanted to account for 100% of your consumption, which is false. So the big one, cost. That's what everyone wants to know about. So the average installed cost in Alberta is $2 to $2.50 per watt. What does that mean? So I did this building on First Nations community about 2 weeks ago. That building is 10.4 kilowatts, which is 10,400 watts. So you're kind of looking anywhere between 20 and 26 grand for that system. That's pre-grants. That's the full sticker retail price for that system. And obviously, if you have something that's more technically difficult, or if you want something really fancy, like an array that we did at Nate, it costs more, just like anything else. And so this is sort of your cost breakdown. This is actually an older chart, probably from about 4 or 5 years ago, and you can kind of see it used to be in the $2.50 to $4 a watt range, and prices have come down dramatically since then, and we've kind of seen a stabilization there. That's probably where they're going to stay for the foreseeable future, but there is always technological advancements and different things that do drive the prices down. And then your cost breakdown for a job. So 65 to 70% of your job is going to be the material. It's your solar panels, it's your inverters, it's your racking. And then the rest of it is your labor, your permitting, and any engineering that has to be done. So then, grants that are available. So the most popular one right now is the Alberta Energy Efficiency Grant. They're running a bunch of different programs right now. A lot of you probably heard of them. There's one that you can get all your light bulbs replaced. There's ones for businesses to, change their boilers, change over to LED lights, and then they have this residential solar. It's not even a residential solar, but they have a solar program, and the eligibility for that is for homeowners, for businesses, and nonprofits. And they're offering 75 cents a watt, and that equates to about 30 to 35% of your overall cost. And then the city of Edmonton actually just came out with another grant that you can stack on top of the Alberta Energy Efficiency Grant. And they're offering 15 cents a watt. And obviously you have to live in Edmonton, or the building has to be in Edmonton, and it has to be a residential building. So that could be a house, it could be a condo, it could be an apartment, but it has to be residential. So then you're up to that 90 cents a watt, and you're talking about 40-45% of your cost covered upfront by the governments. City of Edmonton also has the Eco City, which is the goal is to fund energy conserving projects and sustainability projects, and that's on a case-by-case basis. They don't have a benchmark for the funding, but it's available to the community leagues, charities, schools, and nonprofits. So that's something that you're interested in. That's a good program. And then TAME is a terrible acronym that I can never remember what it stands for, but it's for municipalities. So any municipal buildings, any schools, libraries, anything owned by that municipality, they can apply through this program to get solar on their buildings, and and that's 90 cents a watt. So that's pretty nice. The on-farm solar program is very similar to the Alberta energy efficiency one, just geared more toward agriculture, still 75 cents a watt. So whether you're a grain dryer or an operating farm, that's something that you can qualify for. And then the Alberta Indigenous Solar Program, so First Nations, Métis communities. That one's a really nice one. It's very generous. 80% up to $200,000, which you can install quite a lot of solar with. Some kind of rough economics, and this is based on a residential application, taking nothing else into effect but just simple payback. So what did I pay for the system and how many years based on my annual savings of that electricity would it take me to pay it off? And so the average payback time right now is 12 to 15 years.
That's after the grant.
You're jumping the gun. That is after the grants, but again, this is just for your average homeowner, right? So as an investor or as a business, you're kind of in a different category, right? Because there's things like write-offs, and taxes, and all kinds of other different things, which we can get to, I promise. And then your average lifespan of your system is over 25 years. So, once you buy your system, it's going to be in operation for a good long time.
Does the panels start degrading right away?
They do start degrading roughly 1% per year. And so that means that year 25, your panels are still going to be about, the low 80s percentage-wise efficiency, which is still pretty good. Yes,
Is there a difference between imported panels? Like, do you have to be careful where you get your
There are slight differences. So I only deal, and most contractors, and in fact, I'm pretty sure all contractors now, only deal with tier 1 manufacturers, and it's exactly what it sounds like. They're the best of the best. And all of those panels, I shouldn't say all of them, 95% of those panels are imported. That job that I showed you a couple slides ago, that was actually a Canadian-made module. You can get them. There's just less available on the market. We don't make as many in Canada, so there's less variety. And I didn't pick them because they were Canadian. It just happened to work out that they were. So, all of them. And then your average ROI, based on your annual savings alone, is 6 to 12%, which is not terrible. I didn't know where to put this slide in, but it's important to talk about because people always want to know how long is my system going to take to pay off. But it's like, do you ask someone how long is it going to take to pay off your investment property? Not generally. You ask them how much money they're going to make off of it. So a levelized cost of electricity, quite simply, is whether you have a dam, a natural gas plant, a wind turbine, a solar farm. And this is done at a very, very high level by economists hired by the companies that build these facilities. They'll say, how much do we spend to build this facility? How many kilowatts is it going to make over time? And what do we actually pay per unit of that electricity? And so for that job I did, I was in High Prairie. The rough cost was $18,000. The lifetime production, 275,000 kilowatts. Kilowatt hours. And so when you crunch the numbers, the cost divided by its lifetime production, you're paying 6.61 cents per kilowatt hour for 25 years. And then, which that's roughly the retail cost of electricity today, probably a bit low. And that is, and you're paying that for 25 years. So you basically locked in that rate. You bought 25 years of electricity at that price. I don't know about you, but if I could buy 25 years of gas at 10 years ago's price, I'd probably done that. So ATB, in their infinite wisdom, they decided we're going to fund solar panel projects. We're going to come up with a product that does just that. And they have 3 streams, one being residential financing, for homeowners, or if you, for example, owned a a building independently or not through a corporation. They have agricultural financing, and they have business and commercial financing. And kind of what that looks like on the residential side is they'll give you an unsecured line of credit for prime plus 2. So right now that's 5.7%, and that term is up to 15 years, which is all right. As long as you're credit worthy, it's just like applying for any other line of credit or loan. They will issue you the money that you would like, and you just have to go through one of their authorized dealers, which I am, PowerPack is, and they have a number of other ones. And then you have agricultural financing. That's loans up to $100,000. Again, amortization over 15 years, 80% loan to value. Prime plus 1 on installations over 25,000, which is not that difficult to get to. So you're talking borrowing money at 4.7%. And prime plus 2, less than 25,000. And on the business and commercial side, let's say if you own an apartment building, something like that, that is a conversation that you would have directly with ATV, and they normally, if for the first two, I'm the intermediary between the bank and the customer, but for the business and commercial financing, that is done directly between the bank and the customer. And I've actually had some customers that they will ask the bank for more money than what their system costs. The bank doesn't care. And I know this because my guy, the head guy at ATB that administers this program, he said, we will give people as much money as they are available to get. So these people taking the money, paid off other higher interest credit facilities, taking the rest of the money, paid for solar panels, and they're way further ahead than they were to begin with. And for example, if you had to do a roof on your house, ATV will loan you the money to do that roof, as long as in the quote that you provide them, it says something to the effect of install solar panels and associated roof work. So if you don't want to fork over the money to do a roof, this is a pretty good option. So benefits of installing, above and beyond obviously the money. You get 25 years of electricity paid for up front, today's price. You prolong the lifespan of your roof. So the worst things for your roofs are sunlight and moisture. And when you put solar panels over top of them, especially on the south face, which gets the most heat, the most direct sunlight, you're basically guarding that roof from sunlight and moisture. So your roof with 25, 35-year shingles could actually should last 25 or 30 years instead of the moisture and the warmth eroding that and having it replaced after 15 years. So that's nice. The government changed the taxation and the capital cost allowance for solar panels, and they will actually allow you to deduct the cost over 2 years, which they didn't normally allow you to do, which as long as your business makes money, can be attractive. Obviously, if you're a business or if it's for real estate transaction, you can write off the interest paid for financing. For every kilowatt installed, you offset approximately 800 kilograms of CO2 every year, increase the value of your property, and reduce your exposure to changing energy prices. So this kind of goes back to that 12 to 15-year payback. There's things that you can do to really maximize your investment and actually make it more of a 7 to 10-year payback. It's a little bit small, but first one is do an energy audit, because not a lot of people know how much power they're actually using and from what. Things like your Shaw box, your Telus box, when you think it's off, it's actually probably using about 80% of the power that it does when it's on. So by switching to things like LEDs, programmable thermostats, and motion sensors, especially in buildings where a tenant is living and maybe they don't care quite as much about how much power they're using is a good idea. And buying smart power bars and energy efficient appliances. I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room that is guilty of buying the cheapest stainless steel appliances that I can find without giving any thought as to like how much power does this actually use. You know, if I'm going to buy and hold this particular property, what is this going to cost me over the long term? So those are just things that you just kind of start to ask yourself and evaluate. And then these two points kind of go hand in hand. So changing your energy retailer. Not all energy retailers, electricity retailers are created equal. In Edmonton, your default retailer is EPCOR. You sign up for a new service, that's who's on your bill. Which is fine. They're not bad to deal with. But sometimes energy companies can be really terrible to deal with. Or if you want to talk to someone on the phone, you can't get a hold of them, or you want to know, why did you charge me this amount? And they can't tell you. So I switched to a local provider through UtilityNet. And they're easier to deal with. They have better rates. They have more flexible plans to choose from. And from a solar perspective, they actually give you a bonus on every kilowatt that you produce. They'll actually pay you 1 cent more than what you bought it for, which is nice. And this kind of got washed out a little bit. This is actually built from a basement suite that I own. And it ties into the next point, which is overproducing power. And if you could read this box up here, it would say that I pay 15 cents a kilowatt hour for my electricity. A couple slides ago, I said, 6, 6.5, 7, that's kind of the standard. But I pay 15 cents a kilowatt hour because my basement suite that has solar panels on the main floor suite actually overproduces. So when I'm right here, this is my consumption and this is my solar production. These just cancel each other out 1 for 1. So whether I was getting charged $100 a kilowatt hour or a 1 cent kilowatt hour at the end of the month, it's a total wash. But I overproduce. So at the end of the month, my energy company pays me 15 cents a kilowatt hour for all of that power. So this bill is 26 bucks for the entire suite for the entire month. The one before that was 18 bucks. So that's how I get more bang for my buck from my solar panels, and I basically become the energy retailer for my tenants. So they're on a fixed amount every month that they pay me, and you can see what I'm paying, and obviously there's quite a big difference. So that's money in my pocket, money in your pocket. This is the ASO forecast. They're the ones that forecast energy prices. This is from 2016, and you can kind of see it goes from 2018, the forecast, all the way to 2034, and it's only going up. And that forecast, thankfully, was wrong, and it didn't go up that much in 2018. That's almost worse, in my opinion, because they really have no idea what things are going to look like in 20 or 25 years. And certainly with things like carbon taxes and phasing out coal-fired power plants, you can pretty much bet that your electricity is going to go up every year in perpetuity, because at the end of the day, you're just leasing that power. That's all it is just a lifetime lease. This is just some pictures of, kind of what to expect and what not to expect. It used to be that there wasn't really a good way to attach solar panels to the roof, and people used parts from different industries because it wasn't the standard piece of racking. So they would literally just drill into your roof truss or your roof sheeting and then put some UV rated silicone on it and hope that lasted for 25 years, which I can assure you that it does not. So obviously you could be prone to leaking. And then you have something that's more today's standard that is gasketed. It's slipped actually underneath your shingle so water sheets off it. It has a rubber gasket in it. It has sealant on the back of it. So there's virtually no potential for that ever to leak if it's installed correctly, which it's almost impossible not to install correctly. This one kind of speaks for itself. Solar panels are kind of like a sail. So you would basically attach a big sail to the top of your roof, and those panels will crack in half. Or, for example, I was at I want to just preface this, not my job, but I got a call a couple months ago from a school. Before school got out, and it was those couple of days, I think it was in May or June, where we had like 80-kilometer winds for like 2 or 3 days. I get this call, and the guy says, yeah, we got these solar panels on our roof, and it was kind of similar to this. And they're supposed to be facing south, and right now they're kind of all facing east, and they're about to fall off the building. I'm like, okay, I'll be right there. And so, having a good roof placement and good roof attachment is obviously very important, so that stuff like that doesn't happen. This goes back to the age of your roof. So someone actually did install solar panels on this roof. Yeah, and you can tell like the texture's even gone off those shingles, so they're spent. And so if you do, if you're interested in installing panels, then it's a good thing to do all at once. Get your roof done and get the panels installed if the roof needs it, and then that's a nice new roof with new shingles, and it's quite good. Bonding. Now there's at least one other electrician in the room, so John, you'll understand the value of this, but this is the most important aspect of a person's system for safety purposes, and it's what the electrical inspectors will look for, and you can't, it almost doesn't do it justice, but that's a tie wrap. That's a tie wrap, and it probably won't last more than a couple winters. So, making sure that is done properly is. This doesn't look terrible, and it wouldn't be terrible if these modules weren't actually connected to each other and weren't actually working, but they are. So, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that that's probably not the safest thing in the world, but that installation, clean, neat, tidy, is safe and one that you would want to have. Just a quick thing on operating maintenance. So there's no ongoing operating maintenance on a system for at least 10 years. Virtually no components that you can buy commercially today have a warranty less than 10 years. Most panels it's a 25-year warranty, and the design life is actually 25 years on something that did have a 10-year warranty. So it used to be that around the 10-year mark you might have to replace an inverter, but they're kind of getting away from this. And there's online tools now. Almost every manufacturer has an online tool, online portal that you can track how much power it's producing. As long as you have internet connections anywhere in the world, you can track what your system is doing. It'll tell you if there's something wrong with it. It'll send you error codes, all kinds of different things that you can do with those platforms. And then it does not require snow removal or cleaning. There is a product called Liquinox that you can clean modules with. It's really, I've never used it. It's not something that I'm going to use. You might increase your production by like, 1% or 2%. Not really worth my time. And as far as snow goes, your production, your peak production, your optimal production is between March and October. That's 85% of your yearly production. So, between November and February, we're going to get some snow. We're going to have days that the modules are covered with snow. If I lived in a bungalow or something like that, where I could get a snow rake, it was easy to clear the modules, yeah, I would think about it, maybe. I live in a 2-story house. I'm not getting up on my roof in the middle of winter to get another 1.5% out of my solar panels. But I do actually have customers that will. They're crazy, but they do it.
So they'll still produce with the snow on them, right?
So they still produce a little bit with the snow on them, and they produce heat because it's like an element basically, and so over a couple days or a week, that snow will actually sheet off depending on the pitch of your roof, and so it's really not an issue from that perspective.
That would be the same thing for freezing rain too.
Yeah, freezing rain would actually be better because it's translucent, so the light would actually still hit the panel and it would generate more power and more heat, and it would come off sooner. So. And the same goes with soil lanes. Like I said, it's you're talking about a 1 to 3% difference, so it's pretty negligible in the grand scheme of things. And that's it. We got one question in the back, 2 questions. What's the cost? So let's see if I can do some quick math here. So if you're talking $2 a watt installed at that 5.75 kilowatts, so 5,700 watts, you're looking at 12,500 to 15,000, and again that's pre-grant. So that's kind of the ballpark.
How is the technology of the panels changing? Like 5 years ago, solar panels versus 5 years from now, are you seeing an evolution of the technology, or is it they're pretty much the same efficiency? That's
the efficiency is going up a little bit, not a ton, but as things get more efficient, they also get more expensive. So they can make pretty efficient panels that are like 22% efficient. That seems low, but for solar panels, that's actually quite good. But they cost a lot. So it's, unless you're building a spaceship where you need like maximum power density, it doesn't really make sense. The trend right now is for modules to get bigger and put out more wattage on the same footprint. So they kind of come in 2 distinct sizes. One is about as tall as I am and about 3.5 feet wide, and the other one is also 3.5 feet wide but about 6 inches tall. And they're just packing more density into those panels. Yes?
What's your ideal pitch for the roof of these type of panels?
Ideal pitch in Edmonton is 53 degrees. But because of the angle of the sun is constantly changing in Edmonton, anything literally between flat and 53 degrees is between 85% of optimal to 100%. So you'll never kind of see less than that 85% of optimal. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So 7.
Yeah.
I think the panels that you can actually use as a roofing roof as well for solar city.
Okay, yeah, there is some products now like that. I have not personally used them, and one, they're not commercially available in the wholesalers that I deal with, and 2, there's a lot of sort of unproven technology there. Other companies, big companies, have tried to do like the solar shingle thing. Didn't work out for them, and so I'm going to wait and see how that plays out before I start doing like solar shingle.
What about the technology like Tesla batteries?
Yes.
Compared to this type of system?
How do you?
Well, where you're feeding back.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, people are always interested in the power walls. Power walls are really cool. I'm not a fan for a couple of reasons. One, just geographically, they're good for storage of energy when you live somewhere that charges different rates for electricity at different times. My brother lives in Australia. That's what they do. So for him, a power wall might make sense because he could store the power and then he could sell it back when it was worth more money. That's not the case here. The other thing I don't like about power walls is that they're proprietary. So nobody in this room could buy one unless they bought it from the one person in Edmonton that is qualified to install it. And I've heard, and I've not verified this, but you can't become a verified installer of a power wall until you install a power wall. So figure that out. Yeah.
About structural integrity of the roof, like considering, because it's engineered for
Sure.
snow weight, right? And not gravity.
Yeah, absolutely. So our roofs, how am I doing for time?
That's okay, we got time.
Okay. Your roof is over-engineered, and part of the permitting process for just about every municipality in the Edmonton and surrounding area requires that I provide a structural engineer, either stamp drawing or letter, to say that this will accommodate the snow load, which is only about 2 to 3 pounds per square foot, so it's really not a lot.
We're actually a company that does install the power walls. So, Canadian Power Pack just bought 3 of them off us like
They did?
2 weeks ago.
So really,
Yeah.
so you're a Kubi?
Yep.
Nice.
What brings the price down to the longest?
It kind of depends on what equipment you're using, how easy of a roof you have to do. You know, the same with any other project, degree of difficulty.
I got time for one more.
Okay.
So I keep seeing pictures of rectangular panels on rectangular roofs. If you have a hip roof, all you have is these little triangles.
Yeah, that can be difficult. It can be difficult, yeah. Or you just can't quite fit enough modules in for it to be easy, I guess, or aesthetically pleasing. All right, I think I'm getting cut off, but I'm sure if you have a question at the break, then we can do that.
Can we get a round of applause for Vera?